Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis show. In this episode, man, Lisa Laporte, I got to say her name before I go into my diatribe about how amazing this young lady is. When you look at her bio and all the things she's done and the way she's gone from corporate world to helping corporate world to sharing all that experience with everybody else. Lisa, man, it is great to have you, and I'm excited to get into it today.
It's a pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on.
Well, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I want to go right to what I was just talking about, because whenever somebody is in the corporate space and then they go, okay, well, I'm okay working in the corporate space, but I'm not okay being under the corporate space. So I'm going to shift and kind of go outside in. What what was that? What was the catalyst? Kind of was it a transition? Was it a, oh my God, I got to do this, or what?
Well, I'm unusual in that I set a goal at 20 that I wanted to be a corporate controller to a small to medium sized company by 35. So that's an unusual goal for a young lady, but I set it and I hit that at 33. And by 36, 37, I looked around and thought, wow, if I'm doing this for hundreds of companies, because I went to a startup that was about 10, 15 people. There were 3 projects and it was a commercial developer. And over 10 years, I held all these different titles until I finally achieved what I always wanted. And then I looked around and thought, well, if I'm doing this, and at this point we had over 200 entities. I had a huge staff. We were growing and we were just buying projects and building projects. It became really just chaotic. And I oversaw quite a bit. And I thought, wow, if I can do this here, imagine if I did this for a bunch of different peoples and, a bunch of different companies and tried something new. So I quit my job in the corporate world, walked away from 6 figures, equity on the table, breadwinner in my family, and had one 50-hour month client and said, I'm going to start my own consulting business. And I left the corporate world. I took the leap because I really felt I had what it took. I felt I had the gravitas, the experience, and I wanted to do different things. And I don't know if you know anything about corporations. When they get super big, you get shoved in a box. And I'm not a box person. I tend to have my fingers in a lot of different things. Besides the company I have now, I have another company. I'm consulting. I'm looking at the next thing I want to do. So I'm probably a serial entrepreneur. So I took the scary leap and left and decided that I'm going to do this for other people. And that's when the .com crash hit. So I, within 6 months, had the CFO title at 3 companies. I had 3 people working for me. I was touching every type of industry beyond what I was already doing and really just spreading my wings and seeing what I can do. So it was really fun for me. It was also very scary.
Was the role of corporate controller what you thought it was going to be? Because it seems like you basically put it on steroids. So when you hit that, was it kind of this like, dang it, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, or was it more so just seeing that extra opportunity that was out there?
It was everything I thought it would be. It was, the oversight. I mean, I was responsible for the cash flow for over 200 companies. And you got to remember, things were starting to not do so well then. So it was managing. Honestly, I spent 75% of my time managing cash. And that became a little redundant, a little like, I would rather be proactive than reactive. So it ended up becoming very reactive at that point. And there was not a lot of value on accounting at the company I was at, which was probably their biggest mistake. And I see that mistake made everywhere else. People should value the people putting out the numbers. You really need all aspects of a company. And when the accounting team is not treated well and not giving the resources they need, they will end up leaving. So that was part of my reason for leaving, besides the fact that it became about managing all these cash flows. So it was everything I thought it would be and beyond. The problem solving skills I had to come up with were just more than I could handle. So at one point I just said, I'm going to try. I've always wanted to have my own consulting business. So I thought this is a really good opportunity. And one thing I try to really, tell everybody, especially today, accountants are hard to find. So you should treat your accounting department as you would your sales department, because you really need everyone to make it happen. So it was everything I thought it would be, and then some, and then it became just too much and a huge burden. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it under my own brand. And so I did, and it was very successful to the point that I fell in love with new media. And the only reason I stopped doing my consulting business was because I fell in love with TWiT TV.
Well,
Could you speak? Go ahead.
I want to jump on something I heard, and I'm really curious about this. Did you feel a shift from like a love of numbers? Because that's what most accountants and comptrollers get into, right? They're like, I love crunching the numbers, I love spreadsheets, to people. Is that what happened? Because that's what I just heard you say.
Right. So I had already managed, I mean, I had a team, an accounting team of up to 10 people at that point. So I learned to manage people. It's still the hardest part of my job. You can do almost anything. I love numbers. So I was doing statistics when I was 10. So numbers for me is just like it's part of my DNA. Yeah. So I can still pick up a P&L, a balance sheet of any company and probably tell you what's wrong with it within a day if I could talk to the right people. So that to me is just like breathing for me. It's really an easy thing for me. People are on the other end are extremely more challenging. so having that transition, so for me, when I became this consultant, I got to go beyond numbers and beyond people. I walked into companies that were like, they went from 50 million to 10 million and they're like, what do we do? So I wore like a CFO, COO hat. I got to go in and rebuild teams, evaluate companies, help them pivot and make their next decision. So that to me was fun. I like to build things. I think the best part of what I do is I like to build successful teams. And that to me is hard. I don't find that easy at all because you have the human element. And I just had fun doing that. And I'm still that way. I'm the first person to say, what's next? What's next? What do we do next? I will be a lifelong learner, probably a serial entrepreneur. I'm already looking at what I want to do. I feel like our media company is stable and I'm considering my next move. So that's just how I think
there's such an interesting little lesson there. I thought just the subtlety of how you described, your love for numbers, doing stats at 10, which is just unbelievable for me because I struggled my way through college stats. But you compared it, it's like breathing. Well, you don't want to breathe for a living. You want to do something that you enjoy. And that's how you found that extra energy to keep going, into the more human elements of those. But what I'm really curious about is you talk about the importance of accounting. Could you speak on that a little bit more into the startup world? Because, to say that for a corporation, to have the accounting department, make sure you're taking care of those people. Okay, I can wrap my head around there. All right, I got in a team of 4 people and we're looking to hire an accountant. What lesson do you have for that type of a person?
Always know your numbers, always know your business. I mean, the reality is if you don't know the foundation of how your business is making money, you may be successful in one aspect. You're not scalable. You don't know where things are. You have to worry about fraud, embezzlement, things along those lines. So I tell people, if you want to go out and be a startup, there's plenty of independent bookkeepers, accountants out there. You can partner with one of them to help you with oversight. So always have some checks and balances in play. I would say in the 8 to 10 years that I was independent consultant, I can't tell you how much fraud and forensic accounting I had to take over and to go into companies because people don't know that part of their business. So I always recommend to startups, if you have a product, you have an idea, you're the visionary person, maybe you're the Steve Jobs of the company, make sure you have a Wozniak on board or somebody on the business side of things that can actually get you to where you need to go. So it's that important. You can't just go out. I consulted for so many people that just didn't know anything about their numbers. And a lot of them were unsuccessful because of it. They didn't know what it took to actually make the money. So it's really important, if you aren't that person, that you find somebody that really understands business and can help you on that end. And also look for mentors, find people that are pioneers in that industry and learn from them. I am the first person to ask for help. I'm willing to look under every rock until I figure it out and talk to anyone, because I'm not an expert in everything. That's, I think, the best thing to know if you're in a startup is know what you're an expert in. And the best thing is know what you're not an expert in and fail fast.
Where did that come from? Because there's a lot of self-worth and self-discipline that you have to have in order to be that person that, raises the hand and says, hey, I know how to do this, but I need people to do all the rest of the pie. And it's okay to ask for it. That had to come from somewhere. Hard knocks, what?
Oh, probably a mixture of what you just said. I've learned the hard way on a lot of things. I've made tons of mistakes. And the thing I try to tell a lot of people that are young and just getting out there, you're going to fail more than you succeed. And then even at my company, I started our sales process 10 years ago. Part of why I think I'm successful is I'm not shy. I tend to break things, ask for forgiveness later. So I made tons of mistakes. I failed. I'm not afraid to admit that. And I tell people I probably fail more today than I did 20, 30 years ago because I'm trying more. So if you're not winning, you're learning, and you're going to fail a lot more than you're going to succeed. So 10 years ago, I started our sales process. I have failed more in the last 10 years than I think I have in my entire first 20 years of my career. Because you're only going to close 1 out of 30, it's going to get, you have to do more. So I learned a long time ago, just don't be shy, know what you know and know what you don't know. And what you don't know, go and find people who are experts in that. So I'm the first person to say I know very little about the world because the older I get, the more I realize I don't really know a lot about anything. I'm an expert in a very small slice of what's going on, but I'm very resourceful and I try to branch out. And I think respect is huge. I think people need to respect everyone on their team, from the receptionist to the accountant to your janitor. I think there's a lack of respect in a lot of industries. I think that's a huge problem. I didn't get to where I'm at today because I was by myself. I have a massive team behind me. So yeah, it was probably a combination and just paying attention, be curious, listen.
Talking about, so this is something I'm just thinking, having more failures and successes, I think that's very true. And then you also add in, we as people have that negativity bias, so we tend to look at the failures. So Lisa, how do you remain positive in that kind of a setting? Because it's important to remain positive. Dad, I don't know, I always laugh at this when we start talking failure, because to you, that's the F word, Dad. You don't even want to use the F word. It's, that's terrible. But yet there's so many other people in all these examples inside business and entrepreneurship where it's like, I fail all the time and that's okay. So I want to get from you, Lisa.
I love that because I personally detest failure. So I had to embrace it. So it took me a long time to get over that failure is actually not a bad thing. Because I remember even you learn that in working out, this, you're, ex Green Beret, you're going to fail and you don't want to fail. And I understand that. So I have that part of me. I think there's this piece in me that's an internal optimist. So when I fail, I try to look at it and learn from it. Like what, the hard knocks, what did I miss? What happened? And sometimes there was nothing you could have done. It just, we had a pandemic. Things happen. Sometimes there's things outside of our control that happen. So to me, what I try to do is learn as quickly as I can from that and then pivot and go, okay, what's next? So that's part of, I think, my optimism. But failing, I had to learn to fail. And it's still, when I say failure, my body shudders inside. There's a little piece of me that just doesn't like that word. So I've had to learn to that it's okay to fail. And leaping in sales really is where I became more comfortable with failure. So it's not a word I like, but I've learned a long time ago I'm human and I fail a lot. And then I fail and I try not to, or I just miss things. You miss appointments and I'm like, well, there goes my Superwoman cape and I go and hang it up. So just to be kind to yourself when you do and learn from it and try to move on. I think a lot of people fail and then they, instead of just learning from it and moving on, they hang on to it and they keep going down the wrong way. And I try not to. I just, when I really fail and you fall flat on your face, it's like, well, that didn't work. So what do we do next? And I try to look at the next thing. And that's where, I have mentors. I still have mentors. As old as I get and I'm asked to be a mentor, I still reach out to people that have mentored me my whole career. And stay humble. Just always be curious, stay humble. And you know what? Get comfortable with failure and you'll still feel kind of icky inside when you fail, but you got to get comfortable with it.
I love that because from his influence of failure being the bad word that, you don't even want. And then also all those lessons of entrepreneurs like, oh, you got to fail fast, fail often, all that kind of stuff. I do go back and forth, just like you were saying, it's like, sometimes it's the worst thing possible. Sometimes, hey, this is a good thing. What I think is really interesting there, you mentioned people focusing on the failure. And I think what happens is, speaking a little bit from personal experience on this, is that when you look back and you're focusing on that failure, you don't see the big picture. And instead of taking that lesson from it, you're looking at other things. And so you wind up repeating the same type of behaviors rather than changing the behaviors. And so you wind up putting yourself down that same path over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's best to not forget what failed. If it failed, take the pieces from it, and maybe you can change a few things and relaunch it. And maybe you need to abandon it and walk away. And that's where you really need to have good people on your team that have a different point of view than you do. So it's brilliant that the two of you don't have the same perspective. If I had all of me's on my team, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for anyone who worked there, because they'd just be like, they wouldn't get a word in edgewise. They wouldn't know what to do. But we have a really healthy mix of people. So I have a few pessimists that keep that part, they're going. My anal bookkeeper still comes out once in a while in me. I was a bottom up person till about 30. Now I'm a top down person, in that I need to see the whole picture, and then I can work on how to get there versus see all the elements to get there. So just be curious, listen, learn, look at it, but don't be so negative that, oh, I tried something, so I can't try it again. You can't operate on fear. You have to have a willingness to move forward.
Where do you find these folks? I mean, that's what I think is interesting, because, all right, it's one thing to say, all right, I'm good at this, because there's a gazillion exercises out there, take a page, draw a line down the middle, write what I can do good, what I suck at, or various forms of that. Where do you find those people that fit? Because that's, I hear that also is you've got not just a team behind you, but a team that you're passionate about, because you've got the right mix of people. How'd you find them? What's a direction or something you can share with us?
I just having connections. I attend conferences. I've networked very, very well. Always being in business, having my own consulting business for 10 years. I ran into tons of people that, like-minded people. And now that I'm in new media, we have people on our network. So we branch out. I network with other networks. We go to the podcast movement. I read books. I listen to podcasts. It's not any one particular place. If I'm interested in something, I tend to read a lot about it. I tend to subscribe to podcasts in it. I tend to find experts in that field. And then I tried to learn a little bit more about that. And it's just a combination of all of that. I wish I could say it's one thing. And I'm just not shy. Like, I'll reach out to CEOs of companies saying, hey, I followed your career. I loved what you've done for 30 years. Do you have 15 minutes for coffee or a quick Zoom call? I just like to hear about your background and things like that. So I've done that. I've done cold outreaches to people I'm very curious about and wanting to get to know. I've reached out to a podcast place. I said, hey, I want to do more podcasts. Like, how do I get my name and message out there? That's how I found you two gentlemen. So just being curious and putting yourself out there. Even if you're shy, go to a conference, attend webinars. There's so much free information out there that I think you just have to be curious and willing and find what works for you. So there's so many ways. And it's so much better than it was 30 years ago, where you had to, like, we didn't have the internet. You had to go to a library to find things. You didn't know how to network. So honestly, through my professional career and just curiosity, and I'm a lifelong learner, so I take classes all the time. I'm always running into people, and just not being shy, say hello to the person next to you.
So one thing on that, you mentioned, reading a lot into different areas and, hiring people in those areas that you're not an expert in. So how do you not annoy your experts to the point they leave? Because I had a great friend of mine works with us now at Tribe and Purpose. He was my computer guy. We're doing virtual events, and I had taken 4 computer coding classes in high school. So I knew just enough to annoy him with like what I wanted out of it, but I didn't know enough to be like, oh, that's really hard. I shouldn't ask him to do all 3 of these in one day. So how do you walk that line of getting your own knowledge that you can talk about and have those conversations, but then not overstepping to the point where they don't want to work there anymore?
I am not a micromanager. That is the number one rule I have. I can't micromanage people. So it's a blessing and a curse. So the blessing for me is I hire really good people. And if you're great, you're going to stay. The curse is if you need to be managed, you won't work for me. I don't hire people. I don't mind if you're green, but if I have to manage you, you won't work for me. You have to, I surround myself with experts and I get out of their way. So what I do is I work with people I feel are smarter than me. I do work with people that my IT team's amazing. They're brilliant. And I remember that. And I stay out of their way. I do come to them. I'll ask questions. I'll make sure that we can get a project done because I lead our company on ideation for everything that we do moving forward. So I will pull in a meeting. I'll pull in all the experts and we'll talk about something and then we'll set up a timeline and I ask for their input. I don't tell them how to do their job. So when I say, this is what I want to accomplish, I let them come and say, like what I would recommend you do next time when you hire somebody is you say, this is what I want to accomplish. How do we make it work? Here's all the little pieces I want. Have that conversation with the person who's the expert in it and see if you can get it set up. So you can frustrate yourself by trying to lay out the entire plan. What I do is go, here's what I want to do. How do we get there? And I pull on my team and I build that with the experts on my team because I'm not the expert in what they do. So the best thing I would recommend to people is don't micromanage, set your goals and expectations, write it out. This is what needs to be accomplished. And then meet with your team and see if you can make it happen. Because then reality has to set in. Can we make this work? So that's probably how I go. I don't want to hire people. I have to tell them how to do their job. I want to hire people that are going to keep me out of trouble and that can just rock what they do with little guidance from me, but we're all in alignment on where we want to go.
In the ideation process there, because one of the other things, that's kind of why I was asking that question, goes back to, and we talked about this a bunch on the podcast, Dad, of where creativity comes from. And one of the things that I think this is a very, very big rule for creativity. There's definitely all sorts of exceptions, but it's that the biggest breakthroughs come from people that are new in the field, that are either literally young or young in the field. And so, kind of like what you're saying of diving into these areas, getting that kind of extra research and then going to the experts and asking those questions. So what does that ideation process look like for you to where you're able to get enough of that knowledge to ask those questions, but then still, like we said, still respecting those boundaries of the experts and, making sure you're walking that line and not stepping on any toes?
I pay attention to when it comes to my company and working on ideation for the next thing. We're in technology media. So I'm always looking what other podcasters are doing out there. And then other media has exploded. I mean, we've been in a pandemic for 3 years. So we now have Disney Plus, TikTok took off. So I am in this crowded field of media. So I'm always out there looking and paying attention. And sometimes it's a younger person on the team, but be careful with that. There's people that have wisdom that, like, I've been in business for 35 years. So I have wisdom in some elements that 25-year-old doesn't have a clue on. And I've been around media now for 15 years. So I might know a little bit more than the TikTok star that just signed up, but has more followers than my entire network. So, right. But, I tend to, at this point in my career, because now I'm at the other end of my career, I will, sit down, like, here's, a great example in, the pandemic hit. So in 2 weeks, I'm a fully ad-supported podcast network. And in 2 weeks, I lost 60% of my advertisers. And then I realized, wow, we're really one-dimensional. We only are supported by advertisers and a tiny bit from our audience members. So I just started reaching out to everybody in the industry going, like, what do you do? I pulled in, my team going, okay, I just lost 60% of our revenue in 2 weeks, which means I'm cutting 40% of my staff in the next 2. So what's out there? So I started looking out what's out there, and I found that there were clubs, and it wasn't just, it was like our whole team was like looking like, what's our next thing? What else could we be doing? So I opened it up to the other experts on the team and go, what do you think we should do next? I'll ask for those ideas too. And then we'll brainstorm and bring something together. And it happened to be my club idea, which became the best thing to do. But sometimes I throw things out to the team and go, I'm not really sure what the next step is. What do you think we should do next? You've all been working here. And that can freak a team out. Because they kind of are always looking to you.
Us, right?
Right. Yeah. They're always looking for you for that. But sometimes it's good to open it up and say, I'm a little unsure, because here's the thing. The last pandemic was 100 years ago. None of us had to deal with this yet. I mean, I don't care if you're 25 or 55. You've never done this. No one's done a pandemic. So it's a great way to clean the slate and kind of ask everyone on the team, what do you think we should do next? So, at this point, I don't have any one way to go on ideation. I may go like, hey, what do you think's next? Or I think I have a few ideas, and I'll pull in people and I'll listen to what my team has to say about it. So that's the thing. Be curious. Don't think you have all the answers. Pull in people and say, I have this idea. What do you think? And you'll get their opinions if you trust them and if you respect them. And if you raised people on your team to be curious, to ask questions, to challenge you. I don't mean challenge you and be rude to you about a task, but I mean like, hey, do we really think, Cam Otis, this is where we want to go next? If you guys said, let's do something, if you don't have those people on your team, you want them on your team.
Sorry, before you go, Dad, what I love is so the other half of that bit of knowledge around creativity that I was referencing is that the incremental changes, which are the more effective generally, than the breakthrough changes, come from people who have been working it for a while. And what you have there basically is the balance of the person who's new in the field coming in and saying, hey, here's the idea. And then you're going to the people who know it to make the incremental changes to make that happen. So I love that there. That balances that two ends of the spectrum.
Sometimes it's a 65-year-old on the team that has the idea. Sometimes it's a 22-year-old. And to me, I don't have that radar that says, oh, you're over 50. I'm not going to listen to you anymore, because I'm 53. So at my age, I listen to everyone, and everyone's like, oh, once you hit 50, you don't know anything. Are you kidding me? I feel like I just got started at 50. You're laughing because,
no, I'm laughing because my first co-founder was 80, I think.
Right. So always never get to an age where you think you know everything. Because I feel like the older I get, the more I really don't know anything. I have a lot of I have more experience, but the older I get, I feel like I really realize how little we really know of this world. So
drop your Otisism, Dad.
Well, I mean, that's the saying of, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. I mean, it really is. And yeah, well, it's the ideation thing got me thinking, and I'll put the two together, the serial entrepreneur and the ideation. How do you stay focused? Because I mean, as a serial entrepreneur and somebody's got ideas, they're just like, ooh, how do you control, that beast in you? That's kind of the way I think of it, because it's like, ooh, cool, check that out. And you want to run all over the place and do all of it.
I'm not really good at controlling my beast. What I'm good at is keeping things going. And once something starts to be successful, hiring the right people. This is part of the not micromanaging part. Hiring the right people to get going. I mean, right before we hopped on, my sales guy closed 120 grand. I'm like, woohoo, money dance in the Slack. We're doing all this stuff. And I go, keep going and sell more than me so you outdo me so I can do the next thing. So what I've learned to do in my career is hire successful people that are really good and they want to do this one element and give it to them, prop them up and run so I can try something else. So besides our technology media company that we have, I have my own agency that kind of dwindled in this pandemic because it's just been, I had to put all my heart and soul into my company. And now that we're doing okay, I'm bringing that back because I'm doing consulting again. And I'm also taking a couple of classes. I was going to be a psychiatrist, so I'm doing some psychiatry classes because I'm still curious about the medical industry and I want to do something there. So that's just being a lifelong learner. So I recommend, if you are like me and you want to do a zillion different things, because that's how I'm built, hire successful people to help you keep something going that you love because you have a passion for it. So my company's working really well. By the end of this year, my goal is to be at 20 hours at my company so I can do other things. And I'm already doing other things, but I have a lot more I want to do before I retire. So I probably will have a company at 80 that I'll be finding a young startup person,
Well,
to get me going, like Cam, and saying, hey, let's go do something. So that's why I think it's super important people surround themselves with high quality people that they don't have to micromanage. You want people to make decisions in what they're doing, and you want them to feel empowered and successful. And, I love it. You can work from home, you can work in the office. We have hybrid, we have all kinds of stuff with what we're doing. And my goal is to always be curious and hiring superstars so I can do something else. So yes, sometimes I will admit, there are times like when the pandemic hit, it was crunch time. I had to lock down, focus for 2 years totally on this one thing. And that was really hard for me to do. It's really hard for me to focus only on one thing. But now that I saw the light at the end of the tunnel and we're there, so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep pushing these people to succeeding. And to me, I feel like I'm like their coach. I've become like more of a mentor there. And then I can go off and try things where I can be a beginner again at something and learn from experts.
You said a word that I wasn't going to bring up. So it caught me off guard, but I think the R word, because
retire.
Yes, I don't see that in you. That's why I was like, wait a second, you used that word, but then you said when I'm 80, starting a new company.
Well,
it's Texas retired, Dad.
It's kind of a hybrid retirement. Like I would like to be at my company 20 hours a week, traveling around the world, and then consulting and doing a few other things. So I envision it, I want a different lifestyle that would be where I don't have to work full time at any one thing. So I shouldn't say retire. I should say having a different lifestyle to where I can have my company at so many hours and then doing other things and also seeing the world. I love different cultures, and I don't know. I've just been blessed with curiosity and a willingness to, and a lot of energy. You need that too.
That's an understatement.
So if Texas retired is when you're not really retired and you just got a ranch with cattle, what's what she's talking about? We need a fun phrase for that. We'll have to think on it.
Yeah, I have a ranch with cattle, but I'm traveling the world. So yeah, I think that's what I meant. So not a full retirement, but just more options. I like options. I'm a woman. Women need options.
There you go.
So one thing that you were mentioning in there, talking about hiring people that you want to grow inside the business and, kind of replace you so that you can move out and go into other projects. One problem that I've thought about in that, because like you kind of hinted in that, I have that serial entrepreneur in me, is that you get the person that wants that ownership. And to me, that ownership kind of goes hand in hand with the entrepreneurial spirit. And the entrepreneurial spirit doesn't like ceilings. So how has that been for you? I guess what I'm asking is, have you had that experience where you build someone up into this position, then you go off into a new venture, and then they're calling you and like, hey, Lisa, I don't want to do this. I want to go do my own new venture. I want to go do this. And you have to kind of keep the pipeline flowing that way. And I could see how that would be much more difficult than just bringing up the one person. So have you had any experience with that?
Oh, tons. I mean, I run a technology media company. Do you know how many hosts we've lost because they want to go and do their own thing? And that happens all the time. You have to account for that. So the people that we've been able to, keep in our team and keep them successful is we give them a lot of flexibility. For instance, the beginning of this year, I went to 4 9s. So nobody got a pay cut. Everyone works 4 days a week, 9-hour days now, instead of 5 days a week, 8-hour days. And they have more flexibility. We've always had 4 to 5 weeks off every year in addition to that. So we allow our team to be able to do other things. So first of all, we offer some flexibility. We pay people very, very well. We offer bonuses. We have a really fat 401k plan. So I've really offered a plethora of benefits that you're not going to really get in the corporate world. And then we don't squash our talent. We let them do shows elsewhere where a lot of people are like, no, you work for CNN, you're owned by CNN, you can't go anywhere else. Spotify's even doing this in the podcast world, things like that. So we've had to allow that flexibility. And now that, my husband is 65, he's our lead host of our network. And we're kind of looking at like, what are we going to do with, this Week in Tech, 3.0, like, is it with the team members we have? Do we find a strategic partner? So it's probably a plethora of things, but we're starting to get into that. We want ownership. I've been able to counteract that with, bonuses at this time until we can figure out, how we move forward. I'm a small podcast network, so I'm not like a CNN yet where people are going to want equity and, we're not a corporation, we're an LLC, so I don't really have shares to give, but something we can consider is, there's plenty of avenues we can, go down. I haven't even talked to my team about it, but, strategic partner, maybe the people in the company, there's a succession plan with them. Maybe we bring in other people, that we know could take our company to the next level. So there's a lot of different ways to handle that. And then something you can consider too, is if somebody comes to me and goes, hey, I want to do my own thing, I would look at any one of those directions before hopefully they just leave. Or maybe you do a joint venture with them, or you bring them in an equity, or you give them a title and some shares in your company. There's all kinds of way of doing that, but sometimes you're going to lose them and they're going to leave. And you're going to have to be okay with that too. So that's where I've been pulled back in. I've lost a few people and, it happens. But right now I feel really good with the team we have now, but we're looking at those options because we do have to come up with something. My husband says he's going to go until 80, which I don't doubt. I think if he doesn't entertain and have something to do, he's been entertaining people for 40 years. He needs to work. He will be working for his entire life, or I will probably be like, I will be like, please someone take him, put him on stage somewhere. So yeah, I don't think there's any one way to answer that question. Just make sure you're checking in with them regularly, make sure they're happy. And if you're finding that they're not, and they're going to take off and do their own thing, or they're going to start a business, consider, is it something you want to fold into yours first, or you may lose them. And we've lost people, and that's going to happen because you may never make them happy. They may want to do their own thing, and it's not your choice. That's the human element that I said. Numbers are always straightforward. Humans, we're not.
Well, I was going to say before you go, Dad, that reminds me a lot. And you and I both coached high school rugby. Me coaching in the college element now. There's the natural turnover that comes with coaching in those environments versus the men's clubs and those professional level. And one of the interesting things is just like what you're talking about, Lisa, where it's like, especially at the college level, not as much at high school, but college level, you get a lot of people who I'll coach them for a year or two, and then they're like, dude, this isn't it. Like I love rugby, but like I don't want to be out here 7 days a week working in this 100-degree weather to go get a national championship. Like I just want to play on a Saturday and that's it. And then it's you having that honest dialogue with them, just like you're saying, so that they can come to you, feel comfortable coming to you with that. Right. And then you don't take that as like a personal attack or anything like, oh, I'm a bad coach, so they left. Yeah. Which is how a lot of business owners, I think, would take that. But instead they want something different that doesn't align with what we're doing here. And that's okay. We should help them for that. Just like if a kid comes up to me next week or not, well, it's the summer, not next week, in the fall, and says, hey, coach, I don't want to play anymore, but I want to start my own business. Ooh, I got a network for you. Like it's shifting that perspective that it's still just setting them up for that success. And if you can be involved in it, awesome. If not, that's okay too.
It stings still. I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. Yeah. I've lost some people. I'm just kind of like, oh, like seriously, go. And then honestly, I do take a look at those relationships and I've seen the spots where they did try to come saying they needed more and we missed it. So I try to pay attention to when people leave. Did I miss something early on? Did we talk early on? Or were we trying to negotiate? I do have someone I negotiated with for 10 months to renew a contract, and I won't name the names because I don't believe in doing that. But then they went out publicly, started their own thing, and then completely lied to the public about leaving. And I think those hurt a little more to me because it's kind of like, if you're going to do it, just be honest about it. Don't go out and say something different. But those are life experiences that you're going to deal with. So I just try to lead with integrity because I always feel like, here's knowledge, here's my knowledge, this pyramid of knowledge that I know. And my foundation is integrity. Because if you don't have integrity, you got nothing. You can't say, I trust this person. They have no integrity. You can't build upon things if you don't have that. So that's probably the one thing I've had to learn in life is you don't have to overshare too much about a situation or something that's happened, but just don't go out and lie about it. Just try to have your integrity intact. So yeah, but it does hurt, sometimes it hurts. And sometimes, I think, could I've done things differently? And I've learned I could have, that's the human element. You find out you maybe missed something. But yeah, I try to learn from every situation and do a better job next time.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that, it's understanding their hopes and dreams. I mean, that is, and truthfully, in order to do that, you've got to be such a good listener, because what do you want? What do we want to do? At least my experience over the years with being a leader is I see that I see you, and I think you should do this. And that's the hopes and dreams that we label them with. So it's as a leader, man, do you have to sit there and listen and be open to it? Because you know what? If they want to go be an underwater basket weaver in Bali, and you think that they were going to be your CEO replacement, those two don't match. So
Not at all. Yeah, no, most people look at me and go, I don't want your job, but I have elements of my job which are great because I don't wear just one hat. So like my sales guy, he's like, I'm going to beat you next year in sales. I go, good. I hope you do. We
I
did
love
6 million this year. He's almost at 2 million and I did 4 so far. And he goes, you're not even trying very hard. I go, well, I've been doing this for 10 years. And I do work really hard. Well, no, that's wrong. If you think after 10 years, you don't have to work really hard, guess again.
I meant more so you're so good at it. You make it look easy.
Maybe I make it look easy, but the reality is sales is not really my background. So for 10 years, talk about hard knocks. I learned the hard way, the first 2 pretty hard. And I thought I did a lot of research before I got in there. So I'm still learning in sales. It's still not, I wish I could say it's really easy at this point. It's really not. So I just give them, well, now you got a challenge, go up there and put 5 million on the board for next year. Let's see you beat me. I'm fine with that. I love that healthy competition. But yeah, it's sad when you see some people leave that maybe you weren't expecting. That's where I try to I don't want to stare too long at somebody that's left, but I do want to look back and say, could I have done things a little differently? I'm always trying to learn and improve myself.
Yeah. Just like we were saying, talking about failures in the beginning, because if you just dwelled on it and looked at, just staring at the person that left, well, then you're probably going to miss someone else, the early signs, and then they're going to wind up leaving because you were focusing on that failure.
And then sometimes you get people that you feel that have the it factor and then they don't. So, it kind of goes both ways where you get these gems that you lose, but then you think you're getting a gem and you're like, ooh, this is really cool. Let's put this one back.
Yeah. They were really good on the resume, right?
Yeah. Some people just don't, and sometimes it's just culture. They don't fit, because like I said, if you need to be micromanaged, you won't be working for me. And sometimes I hire people, that's what they need. They really want to be micromanaged and I can't, that's not for me.
I want to shift gears because I want to tap into your I guess, entertainment industry knowledge. That's the way I'm looking at it. What do you see going on next? Beyond podcast or TikToks or whatever?
I've been asked this question a lot, and I honestly thought TikTok wouldn't really make it because of, how short everything is, how quick it is. And then I do see how it pivoted and it's doing super well. I think you're going to see more of that. I think you're going to see more video exploding. I feel podcasting, it's really interesting. You said entertaining because we're a tech network. We feel like we're experts and we really bring you the news and analysis. But honestly, every year we pull our audience and what are the top 2 things? Content and hosts. So the entertainment factor is there. So I honestly see video continuing to explode. I think audio is very important. It'll never go away. We're going to get so busy. I just think more short format video is going to be what takes over and comes out. I see cable TV continuing to lose market share and more individual little indie entertainment, sites are going to open up. I feel that I just feel like everything's so fragmented now. I mean, if you take a look around, we go back 30 years, Cam, you don't know this, but we all talked about what we saw on Sunday night television. And we don't do that anymore. There's so music's, you can consume music in so many different fashions now. You can consume content in so many different ways. My 19-year-old could care less about TV. He's into YouTube, but then my, 13-year-old niece and nephews are into TikTok. So I just see it continuing to evolve. And I think it's going to be evolving faster. And you're going to see a lot of things crop up and fail. I mean, for instance, Facebook added podcasts a couple of years ago. They just canceled that. They're like, podcasts are old. They're not the next thing. They're looking for the next TikTok. So I think you're going to see more short format video come out. That would probably be what I see is going to happen next. But good journalism, really good content, it's always going to be there and people are always going to find it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I was just gonna say, I think there's an interesting contrast. I just thought of this as you were talking through those different mediums that, you have, as things going the shorter and shorter format, and, it's more and more of them, like the TikTok style. Then you have like the full other end of the spectrum, which would be, a movie or a podcast type thing. And it's kind of funny how it's just like the middle ground of the TV that's kind of in between, 30 minutes, that's it, has shifted to where it's like, hey, it's either 30 seconds or we're talking for 4 hours. Like, and it's like, those are the two that people seem to be bouncing back and forth, and it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I like both. I don't sit very well, so for me, like an hour is my limit on sitting. Ask my husband; he's like, "I'm surprised you sit through a 2.5-hour movie." But yeah, I just think it's going to be that for different people. I don't know. What do you guys think the content's going to go? Do you think it's going to be more visual or audio? How do you feel it's going to go?
I like the audio because it allows you to multitask. Like, I'm out working in the yard, I can listen to a podcast, or on the bike downstairs or whatever, right? I can listen to a podcast. I have a hard time, except for a very short period of time in the evening, sitting down watching a show. I have a hard time. I'm a Colorado Avalanche fan. I have a hard time sitting there watching an entire hockey game. I mean, it's because I just think there's so many other things to do. So I look at them, that entertainment / education source, as being able to multitask it. And that's where I'm at. And then I'll just share one thing with you. I get frustrated with all the different streaming things I'm supposed to figure out to watch a show or this or that. And it's like, I'm old school, still got my cable.
I'm married to the tech guy, so I don't honestly, if anything happened to him, I'm going to be you, because I don't know any. We have everything: HBO, Showtime, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, you name it, we have it. And if I have to figure out how it all works, I don't know if I would do well.
Yeah.
My husband's my entertainment guide, so I have someone to help me with all of that. But like you, I agree with that thing that I listen to tons of podcasts besides my own network. I'm an audio book subscriber. I have Audible. I go through tons of books a month. So I tend to be more audio focused than visual, but I'm actually more of a visual learner. So if I have to learn something, I want to read it, touch it, see it. So it's kind of a mix. I use audio more for my entertainment, but like you, I can't sit. So I'm always listening to something, because I can catch tips and tricks on an audio. But if I have to sit down and learn something new, like I'm doing a psychiatry class, I have to read it, see it, and listen. It's got to be a combination. So it just depends on, where I'm going. But like you, I definitely would be down to cable TV.
I think, I think y'all are both definitely right that the audio is there for the multitasking, and that's something that's not going to change. But on the video component side, kind of thinking to the short frame and the long frame, I think that kind of like you're saying that, like, it takes so much to get you to sit. And I think for a lot of people, that's very true, of just getting somebody to sit. Like, shoot, what's that new Batman movie? Almost 3 hours long. Amazing. I enjoyed it, but it's, it's so freaking long. But I think that the test of whether, or like, I guess the change there will be that for the longer things, I think the production quality and the educational aspects or the entertainment aspects are going to have to be so much higher to compete with the, 30-second TikTok that explains the same psychiatry that you're taking a class on. Like, right. Yeah, at a different depth of knowledge, obviously, but I think that's where it's going to be, the quick versions. And then there's going to be, kind of like the podcast comparison, there's going to be the deep conversation level that'll be on the other end of the spectrum.
Well, and my favorite podcast is our network name, This Week in Tech. And that show is 2.5 to 3 hours long. It's my favorite show. And thank God it's, I'm listening to it audio wise, because, it's still my favorite show on the network two of my favorite shows are that and This Week in Google. I mean, I love all my shows, but I try not to miss those two shows because I always want to see what's going on and what they have to say. So I'm always listening to that. And other than that, I catch every single one of our shows. I probably listen to about 8 hours of content a week of my network shows. But my favorite shows still are our network name. And because it's so long, I'm glad it's audio. Well, we also do it in video too. The cool thing about our network is we were one of the first podcast networks to go audio and video early. And I tell people when they want to start a podcast, they're like, should we do video? Now it's easier because as you all know, you can put it on YouTube and things like that. We publish everywhere. So I always just tell people, start with audio. Audio's king. If it doesn't sound good, it doesn't matter what it looks like. And that's how we are with our network. So if we're recording and someone's visual goes out, but their audio is great, we'll keep going. If their audio isn't working, we will stop a show midstream. We do everything live to tape. So, if you guys recorded on any day besides Tuesday and Wednesday, I would have had you on our live stream, which would have been kind of fun. Oh. our artists would be like, what the heck is this? But yeah, so, we offer both for people that want, each piece. And we also have a tech break feed. So there's people that don't want to listen to 2.5 hours. We take chunks of our content and we put it into our tech break feed. So 5-10 minute palatable chunks for people that want that versus, long format. So
I'm really curious as we're kind of talking through a little bit of market research, I guess it feels like, do either of y'all watch podcasts?
Yes.
Because I've got a couple that I watch that I can't multitask to, but then there's other ones I'll listen that I multitask. I kind of have like two different lists. Are you guys like that?
I'll watch and listen if I'm working. I try to stream things that are visual so I can look over and watch and see what they're, what's going on. So it just, it depends. I try to do both. It just, it depends on how much time I have. But yeah, if something's really funny, you got to watch it.
Oh yeah. That's why my comedy ones are the ones that I have to watch because it's like, you got to see the facial expressions and everything. Yeah. It makes it so much funnier.
Yeah.
How about you, Dad?
No.
Watch any?
No, I can't even have people talking if I'm working. I got to have music. Even that. I mean, I don't even listen to Sirius XM because they got DJs in between songs. Occasionally 2 or 3 songs, and somebody gets on and talking. It's like, well, there goes my train.
Breaks up your rhythm. Yep.
Dude, why you gotta talk now?
I had to work in a huge open office at a young age. So I've learned to tune things out, and then having a kid and animals, you kind of learn to just like ignore them, or like the one behind me who's passed out. Thank God.
No, that's not me. Not me. Can't do that. That's too much of a distraction.
So, I'm kind of curious about you two. I keep seeing this Tribe and Purpose hat. How do you guys, how do you guys find new people to coach and mentor? How do you put yourself out there besides your podcast?
Well, I'll let Camden tell you, because he's been leading the marketing effort.
Yeah, so podcast is a big piece of it. The other aspect, we do a lot of Facebook ads, which our new thing, which we're very excited about, is we also just launched a Facebook group called Purpose Pursuit. So anyone listening that wants to join and be around other people pursuing their purpose, go ahead and look that up, Purpose Pursuit. But then the idea is you get people in through there, get them in a community of people that want to support them pursuing their purpose, celebrate each other's wins, all that kind of stuff. And then if they're the right person that needs the coaching and they're ready for it and they're problem aware, then we're right there. He and I are both super active in the group, so we can bring them up that way.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing that. That's super smart. Yeah. Always do an outreach. We are everywhere too. So I always like to hear where people are finding successes and what they like and things like that. So that's great to hear. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll be sure we promote this too on our podcast network, and we have a pretty good social media reach. And I always make my husband retweet things for me because he has, 500,000 followers. So I'm always like, hey, here you go. You can't escape me.
and thanks for setting us up for the plug. I appreciate that. So
yeah. I'll make sure I share this everywhere. It'll be fun. Yeah. But yeah, I'm just curious as to, I'm always wanting to know how people market and find people that they want to coach and things like that. So that's great.
Well, you being curious, Lisa, I got a curious counter because we were told that we say that too much about a year ago, and I keep track of he and I, but I think you blew me out of the water today. I should have been tallying you on that scoreboard.
You're not allowed to say the word?
We are lifelong learners. We are always curious, but we realized that we were asking almost every question saying curious. Like, hey, I'm curious of this.
That's okay. you could just be curious without saying the word the next time. But
Exactly.
I think it's, that's the only way to live is just don't put your head down, keep your head up, look around, So that's why I keep seeing Tribe and Purpose. I'm like, I want to know more about what you guys do. So,
Awesome.
I know it's your show, but I can take over.
See you at the
known to
natural. Look
happen.
out.
Oh yeah.
I feel I'm sliding in. Oh man. How did I lose my train of thought, man? So I tell you what, I want to know what we learned. And for me, what I learned was the Bigfoot stomper again is you can't be the smartest person in the room, and you got to be self-confident. And that's something I think is really was a critical element today was, people talk about not being the smartest person and hiring experts and stuff like that. But until you are confident enough in yourself to realize that it's okay not to be the smartest person in the room, and you don't have to be right every time, and you don't have to have the answers every time. And you can ask experts. Until you are that person, you're going to struggle, and you will continue to fail. Believe me, you will continue to fail as long as you have that idea. So that's what I learned. Don't be self-confident.
Be humble quickly.
Exactly. How about you, Camden? What'd you learn?
Speaking of failure, that you fail more than you succeed. And not that I learned that, but I kind of put that together with something, we always joke, you bat in 500, I'll get you in the Hall of Fame, right? Okay. What that Hall of Fame percentage is for failures and successes in business, it ain't 500. It's down there quite a bit lower. So keep that perspective, have how many failures, how many misses you'll have, because those successes will still get you into the Hall of Fame. So a little perspective switch that I'm going to be working
I wish I were batting 500.
Right?
I heard you say 500. I'm like, wow, that would be awesome. There's some days I'm batting 500, but that's generally not the case. You two reminded me to pay attention to my hopes and dreams of my team members. And when we bring people on, these last 2.5 years have been really head down, trying to keep things going. And I haven't been paying enough attention to that portion. I've been really focused on getting the right people in place. So thank you, gentlemen, for reminding me that other people's hopes and dreams are super important. And I need to make sure I keep that front and center with my team of where they want to go. And this next year, we're working on a couple of huge projects. And I think that's a super important thing to keep front and center with me, is to remember it's not just about my company and what we're doing, but like what the whole team as a whole wants to, do. I was really careful on getting them that extra day off this year, but I think that's the next thing, is just making sure that their hopes and dreams either are happening in their lives or that we're painting them out in their roles at our company. So that's something I need to leverage a little bit more. And it may sound small, but it's really not. It's actually just super important. So thank you both for that.
It is. Thank you. Thank you. How do folks find you? What's the best way to link up with you, follow you, get on your shows and all those sort of things?
If you're curious about our network, you can reach me at Lisa at TWiT.tv. You can check out our network. My husband has a sense of humor. It means This Week in Tech, but he is Chief Twit. And we figured it's an easy name for people to remember. You can check out TWiT TV. We have 13 technology shows, and they're free to anyone that wants to watch them. We also have a club now. So some of our fans don't want to be tracked. So we have a club. We know who they are, but they have ad-free content there, and they have a few bonus content. So that's, I always tell people, go there after you come to our network and fall in love with it. We have something for everyone. There's short format shows, there's long format shows. We're audio and we're visual. So check us out. And if you like something, subscribe to the show and leave us a review. That's how you can reach us. And, I just told you how to find me. I'm on every social platform known to man, but email me if you want to reach me, because I am on every social platform. I don't read those emails. All I would be doing is answering social media emails. So email me if you're serious. If you want to advertise with us too, we have an advertise a sponsor page. Check it out. We do a really great job. We reach a heavily affluent tech community where, in the 14 years I've been at TWiT, we're still 94% male. We were 96 when I started. I'm hoping we're getting more females. We're a pretty diverse network, but it seems like more men are still interested in tech versus women. I'd love to see more women get into tech though. So
I just gotta throw one back for your husband. And it didn't occur to me until you said it, but you didn't ask him about TWiT notes this week.
About what?
TWiT, this week in baseball notes, because your husband's of that age that I know when I was growing up Saturday morning, that was one of my favorite shows beyond the cartoons was This Week in Baseball. So I love that.
I have to ask him because he is a baseball. He used to like go to the Giants game and keep score. So
I love him, man.
Yeah. So he's a huge San Francisco Giants fan. I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. I've been a diehard fan. I'm an NFL fan. So for 10 years, I'll go to any game anywhere. I'm not, I have my team, but I'm finally at that age where I want to go. So, that's great. I'll have to ask him about This Week in Baseball. I bet you he knows.
Yeah, I bet he does. All right, Lisa, this has been great. We really appreciate your time today.
Oh, I appreciate meeting with you too. And I'm going to join your Facebook group. So thank you for sharing that with me. Who knows? Awesome. Maybe Cam can coach me later.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe.
Who of the two of you, if one of you were going to coach me, who would you pick?
Boy.
Ooh. I'd go with him. I'd go with him.
Why?
Because I'm in training. That's the easy answer.
Did I scare Cam? Is that what happened here? I'm teasing.
Maybe.
My confidence interval for my coaching ability as the different demographics, as that goes up, the businesses and those type of things go up, the confidence level drops a tad. I do a lot in the mid-20s, first job, first career, a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's good. Well, I was just curious.
No,
nothing like putting you on the spot. I made Cam sweat a little. That was cute. Well, gentlemen, I really, truly appreciate being on your show. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Lisa. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Cam Otis Show. And a special thanks to our guest, Elisa Laporte, for joining us today. And of course, our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. You can get started for free today at findyourpurpose.coach. Make sure to follow the Cam Otis Show on Instagram and Facebook. And please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Videos of the podcast are on our YouTube page, and you can always get a full archive of our episodes at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. Thanks again. We'll see y'all next time.